Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, and tonight I'll be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all of the episodes and links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for shows, or if you have stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're own or others you trust. Always happy to either read those on the show or have you on the show with me to talk about them. And we can go from there. So, I've got about a half dozen stories to go through for tonight. And let's get right to them. Thank you all again for being here, as always. I appreciate everyone that listens to this podcast, whether you're here for the live streams or you listen to the YouTube or podcast feeds. And again, I always recommend anyone that is able to join the Discord to do so, the server to do so. Even if you don't get to join us for the live shows, you can still see a lot of the great conversations that happen here. So during these streams as well. So and all the links and all the sometimes the images and memes and just different things that go by that I can't get to. And thank you, APAC. I see you there. Thank you. Yeah, and but yeah, definitely recommend people join the Discord server. And so yeah, it covers everything. So let me get to the stories here. So this first one says, "Hello, my name is E," and they use the first letter, or the letter anyway, and that's what I use. My name is E. Tonight, I experienced something that doesn't make sense. I'm very fond of walking in the woods at night. I always feel calm and peaceful when I do this. I've done this for years at multiple different trails without anxiety or paranoia. This particular place, I've had a few weird, peculiar experiences. Years ago, when I first started coming, I met something I call the, in quotation marks, off people, close quotation marks. I have never experienced vivid hallucinations outside of this space. These things look like generic people in colorful, modern clothing and always approach me from in front on the path, walking within arm's reach. They stare for an uncomfortable amount of time, and when they walk past, they are gone. It is very difficult to maintain a gaze on them, and I always have a feeling I need to divert my eyes. Something feels fundamentally off about them, but I've never felt afraid, just kind of dumbfounded and uneasy. Initially, I just convinced myself it was people being people, and I really need a nap. But in the third time it happened, I began to understand something. That something is happening here that I cannot understand, and maybe I should be wary of it. So after 3 years of visiting the state park, I got spooked off of the land. Jump to 3 months later, I decided to come back after having unshakable thoughts that I belonged in this place. I wish I didn't. I came later than usual, around 2 in the morning, started at my usual trailhead, and began to routinely walk, emphasizing control of my breathing in an attempt to let go of my internal monologue and ground myself completely. There were no weird feelings, no feelings of being watched, no feelings of being unwanted. After rounding a bend half a mile in, I saw a deer looking away from me. I thought it was a beautiful, peaceful moment, so I stood and stared. Then something I didn't understand happened. It then looked at me, and it had the face of a human child. Immediately, I couldn't move. Not from some mystic force, but from the shock of seeing something that is still impossible to rationalize. It moved toward me slowly, almost cautiously, until it was no more than 10 feet away. It didn't move like a deer. It seemed almost like a bead filled bead filled plushie, so basically a doll, bending in places without joints, moving in a way that wasn't possible for the body of deer. It maintained eye contact the entire time as it bent up at the waist, human-like, standing straight up. Not one sound, not a growl, not a chirp, just staring at me. I backed away and sprinted to my car, excuse me. It didn't follow, nor did it move at all as I ran. This whole interaction was no more than half a minute. I've been telling myself the area has to have a gas leak making me hallucinate, because it's easier than accepting that I saw something not canonically fitting to the known natural world. I don't think I'll be walking in the woods for a while. When I try assigning meaning to this, I just don't have the words. So that's where that one ends. And sounds like multiple experiences in the same area. Again, out in nature, I guess you could say, even though it's a state park, so there's vehicles nearby. Um, First, the people that they saw, the writer saw, and then something really strange in a way. The people could almost be written off in a way as maybe ghosts or spirits or residual energy or some kind of a time anomaly thing, maybe. But the deer, basically, I've heard of this similar things before, and they're basically called not deer. I've heard this on a couple different podcasts, and I don't know what to make of that. That is really odd. Maybe some kind of nature entity that appears as a deer most of the time. I wonder if um, other people would see, if different people would see different things. If one person would see maybe a regular deer. So this is a I've heard of this one before, some other things before, but not. I haven't come across a story like this myself in my own research for the show. So, and then those two things together, this creature with the strange people in the same park, sounds like there's something going on there. So, but yeah, pretty amazing. I don't know. Again, the people I can kind of maybe write off, but even though they do disappear once they get behind a person, which is odd. But the deer thing, that's a different one. So, but anyway, so that's the first story here, and I will get on to the next one, which is a little bit of a shorter one. This one says, So when I was in primary school, I walked to school alone in the mornings. Uh, it was still dark this one winter morning when I was passing by a row of blocks of flats and I wanted to turn around. I did, and in front of one of these blocks, by a small pine tree, I saw a Grim Reaper just standing there and a bright green light emitting out of him, all around him. I got super scared and ran all the way to school, constantly looking back to see if he was following. I remember telling everyone in school, my parents, and obviously no one believed me. Even though I could have been hallucinating, nothing like that happened ever since, for decades now. But every time I go by that house, I look at that pine tree. It's absolutely huge now. I still remember that so clearly. And I think it was a hallucination, but it seemed very symbolic and specific. I didn't witness any death around that time or anything. So that's where that one ends. Grim Reapers, it's odd. That's been popping up lately in different things, different media, different. There was a news story I shared about a similar figure yesterday. Um, so, and I believe I heard it mentioned, something similar mentioned somewhere else. So, it's funny how those things happen. You get runs of similar things being mentioned at different places. And so I had to share that one. I don't know. I always like to err on the side of caution when it comes to these stories and say, well, I guess the person could have been hallucinating, but also it wouldn't be the first time that people have claimed to see something similar. The green light coming from it, that's a little bit different. I don't know that I've heard too many stories of these Grim Reaper kind of figures giving off a green light. I wonder if it had some connection to that tree. I don't know how. I would think that maybe just because the writer said that it grew really tall there. I wonder if oops, hang on one second here. Okay, I wonder if there was something going on with this being okay, um, giving some energy to the tree, and then APOC mentions in the chat here, green usually represents healing, so interesting duality. I wonder if maybe this whatever this was, maybe it wasn't even a Grim Reaper. It just had dark clothes, which I guess some people could take for that being a Grim Reaper, but um, maybe it was someone or some being that was healing that tree or helping that tree grow. Um, Hard to say, but neat connection there. Thank you for that little bit of information there, APOC. So yeah, so neat story. Um, so and thank you all. I see you all there in the stream, listening in the chat. Thank you for being here. Got a little crowd today. Let's see here. Okay, good. Just making sure everything's still recording. It looks like it is. So I'll go on to the next story. Let's see here. Let me find the beginning. Okay. This one says, I was cleaning my son's room yesterday, and I was in the process of picking up the few remaining larger objects on the floor before proceeding to vacuum. I noticed a dime was on the floor between his dresser and a table. I went ahead and picked it up and placed it in my pocket. I remember having a slight fear that it might fall out and I would end up vacuuming it. So I made sure to tuck it deep and beneath my phone. I began vacuuming and I noticed another dime reappearing, or had reappeared in the same spot. I was shocked because there was no way I could have missed it since I checked the floor rather meticulously. Suddenly, a thought came to me to check it in my pocket for the previous dime. Lo and behold, the dime was nowhere to be found. This made me assume that the dime had somehow fallen out of my pocket and into the same spot. This time I decided to place the dime on my electrical amp, which I store in his room since he rarely goes in there. I continued to vacuum and I heard a large thud. I looked back and his new picture, which I had temporarily placed on his dresser, had fallen. This was no shock since it could have easily fallen on its own. I turned back to my vacuuming and I noticed the dime back on the floor. I look at the amp and see that there is no dime on top of it. This time I make sure to pick up the dime and place it in the other room, in my coin jar. I told my wife about this strange occurrence, and she just thinks I'm crazy. It's because I've had a previous strange experience with pennies. And asked if I'm crazy or is there some logical explanation for this. And it says, update. Found another dime around the same spot on the floor of the room. The odd thing is, there was no reason for that dime to appear. Especially there. Nobody had used the room except my son for a little bit. Since it was just thoroughly cleaned, someone had to have just brought it in and dropped it on the ground within the within a span of 24 hours. I put the dime on the amp again and asked whoever gave it to me to move it again. I waited all day and I didn't budge, so I put it away. So that is quite the amazing set of experiences. And actually, unfortunately, APOC, I don't remember offhand, but your coin story. But that doesn't mean you haven't mentioned it to me before. As I always say, I'm very forgetful. So maybe that once you tell me about it later, some other time, I might remember it. But yeah, really odd, that one. How that thing just kept on showing up. And that it seems like it was the same coin. Now, I really wonder. I don't know if it was. I guess that and this would be something. I wonder if if the writer knows it was the same coin because they saw the writing on it, the year and everything on it, or if they just feel like it was the same one because of how it appeared to disappear out of their pocket. Then if that's the case, then that doesn't necessarily mean it was the same dime. That's what I'm getting at. It could be a dime or different dimes that are, at least in one case there, that could have been put there, and another one's taken away. So I don't know, but either way, that's a lot to have happen. Someone was trying to. It seems like someone was trying to get the attention of that writer there. For what reason, I don't know, but yeah, really amazing story there. At least nothing else happened with it after, so that's good in a way. But yeah, so neat story. I found that earlier today. All these I found earlier today. So let me see here. I'll go on to the next story. This may be a slightly shorter episode, but that's okay. Sometimes they just go that way. So this one says, a few years back, I was sitting in bed, and it was late at night. And I was facing the open space of my room, and I saw this glowing orb. It was only there for a few seconds, but it was definitely there. I'm prone to migraines, but the signals aren't lights in my vision. Didn't have one after that either. Then a few months later, I'm standing in my room, and higher up in the room, near the roof, I guess I mean the ceiling, I see another orb for a bit, and then it just disappeared. Could have been a trick of the light, but happening twice in the span of a few weeks, and never happening again is weird. So that's a short one, just about orbs. But yeah. So again, what are these things? I always come back to that. What are these things? And then are there different things that could appear as the same things in terms of orbs? I feel like that could be the case. So just a neat little experience there with a couple of orbs at different times. On to the next one. Let's see here. Now this one starts off different in a way. I'll read it and maybe, and then not sure if this is anything weird or not. It says, this one says, I'm confused. I reposted my original encounter to this website tonight, and it was immediately taken down because I guess an apparition doesn't qualify as paranormal. So I'm relaying the story here where hopefully the moderators won't take it down. They say something else, but I'm not going to say that. It says, we have a couple of newer people on our shift, and this came back up in conversation, so I figured I'd share my story again. So I'm wondering if this was just real quick out of the story. I wonder if what happened with that, if they posted it and it somehow just accidentally got deleted, or once in a while you'll hear about people posting things and somehow they get deleted, and then when people try to track things down, it doesn't make sense how it got deleted. So that's the only reason I wanted to read that first part. So anyway, going on, this says, I'm a full-time firefighter and paramedic. I've been on the job for 17 plus years, and I have never experienced anything like this before or since. I want to start by saying I'm a rational adult, and I believe in rational scientific explanations for things. But for this, I have nothing. A few years back, we responded to a call around 3 or 4 a.m. for an elderly male with chest pain. On the scene, we found a 96-year-old man complaining of crushing substernal chest pain that started around 9 p.m. He was a tough older guy, and he said, I figured, heck, I'd sleep it off. Of course, it got progressively worse throughout the night, so his wife got sick of his complaining, it says, and made him call 911. The layout of the house was typical for a single-story ranch. Front door went into the living room, hallway to the right leading to the bedroom we were in, with the patient. To the left leads to the kitchen and dining room, with a door leading to the attached garage. I was in the bedroom with another medic. Our third guy was sitting at the kitchen table, putting the patient's information into the computer for the run report. As we started treating the man, he went into cardiac arrest, and we immediately began CPR. While heading back out to the truck to get supplies, I yelled to our other medic in the kitchen to get into the bedroom and help out. We shocked the man, I guess I mean the defibrillator, and to everyone's surprise, immediately got our rhythm back. As we were loading the patient for transport, I asked the wife, who was also about 100 years old, if she wanted to ride with us to the hospital so she could be with her husband. She was obviously in shock from everything going on and seemed hesitant to leave the house, not dressed completely. But we needed to move the patient with purpose. We asked if their children lived close by and if she could get a ride, as we needed the transport right away. She said, no, our daughter lives in another state. Excuse me. Suddenly, our third guy, the one getting the patient's info in the kitchen, said, well, can your son drive you? To which she responded, we only have a daughter. This confused my partner, but there was no time for further discussion, and we brought the man into the ER. Believe it or not, he survived after coding a total of 11 times. After the call, myself and the other medic looked at our partner and asked what that was all about back at the house regarding him referring to their son. He told me right before I went to get him from the kitchen, a middle-aged man walked right by him. He said that he looked just like the old man, but had dark brown hair, and he thought it must have been their son, as he was wearing a white t-shirt and blue pajama pants, and seemed half asleep when he walked by. The medic figured he came out of his bedroom, that all the commotion woke him up or something. He said the man didn't acknowledge him. He yawned and sort of bumped into the kitchen cabinet before opening the door to the garage and going out into it. He never turned the light on, simply turned back around, closed the door, and walked past him and turned the corner to the hallway. Apparently, that was when I came around the corner to tell him to get in there to help out. Our partner said, you had to have practically bumped right into him in the hall. There was no one else in that house I saw. No one. It was just the elderly couple that lived there. Here's the part that bothers me the most. The older man, our patient, was wearing a white t-shirt and blue plaid pajama pants. So, what the heck did our partner see? Was it our patient's ghost or spirit or whatever? Too weird to wrap my brain around. None of us could ever explain it. And our partner still doesn't like to talk about it, even years later. So, the writer brings up a good question. What did they see? Sounds like it may have been, but then it doesn't sound like that, because if the patient didn't have whiter hair or gray hair, I mean, if they had that color hair, then, and this figure that the third medic saw, excuse me, in the house didn't have gray hair and had brown hair. Who was that? Was that still the same person, the same man, just in astral form, and maybe he appeared that way because of his own image of himself? Yeah, or even an earlier version. Either way, it's really odd. A really neat story. And again, I feel like there are a lot of stories out there from people, from first responders, and you can find episodes on shows about these things too. Those are two areas that You always can find stories about whether it's in the actual medical facilities or first responders on location seeing or hearing or experiencing strange things. So, but yeah, so pretty amazing story there. Maybe like an echo. Yeah, I don't know. So, but anyway, so that's that one, and I've got one more here to go. And so here we go. This one says, I have two stories about, excuse me, some creepy things that involve the staircase at my childhood home. This first time I experienced anything happened to me back in 2006 when I was 15. I went to the dentist one morning. When I was done, my mom told me we would head back to our house so she could make me something to eat before dropping me off at school. I remember I was sitting at the kitchen table, just talking to my mom about how school was going while she was cooking me some food. The kitchen table was right in front of the staircase that led up to the second floor, where my brother and I, where our bedrooms were at. I was sitting at the side of the table, where my back would be facing the staircase. While I was sitting there, I could feel a breeze on the back of my neck. Then out of nowhere, I could hear someone say, "What are you doing?" in a creepy voice. As I started to turn around, I could see this black figure running down the stairs toward me. I yelled and jumped across the kitchen table, knocking everything over. Remember, this is around 9:30 a.m. The sun is completely out. Everything was going normal like any other day up until that point. My mom turned around, looking at me, and asked what just happened. I told her what I had heard and seen. My mom said she did hear, and this part is confusing. Yeah, I'm guessing they mean my mom said she didn't hear or see anyone coming down the stairs. We went and looked upstairs and throughout the house, but we didn't find anything. We were the only two there. My dad was at work already, starts work at 5 a.m., and my brother had left for school at 8:30 a.m. That was the first, but definitely not the last time I would hear footsteps coming up and down the stairs. The second story I have actually happened to my mom, but it kind of involved me. So this had to have happened about 5 years later when I was 20. My brother and I both had the night off from work, so we decided to stay home and play some video games with our friends online. It was just like any other night, just having a good time playing video games. It was probably around 1 a.m. when our mom came upstairs asking us to keep our voices down, and we told her sorry for being so loud. She headed back downstairs. A few minutes later, my brother and I could hear her talking, and she was saying my name, but we couldn't make out what she was saying. About 2 minutes later, she came back up the stairs and asked me what I was saying to her. I had a look of confusion on my face and told her I didn't know what she was talking about. She told me that she told my brother and I that while she was getting a drink of water, she saw me walk down the stairs wearing my hoodie with the hood over my head, and said I sat down on the stairs and started talking to her, but she couldn't really understand what I was telling her. Then she said I stood back up and just walked back up the stairs. And that's when she came back up to ask me what I was saying. My brother and I both told her that I didn't go downstairs to talk to her, and that I was in my room the whole time. She just looked at us and said, "Well, something was talking to me down there." That was the last time I remember something creepy happening that involved the staircase. We lived there for another 4 years without anything like that happening again. So, I wonder what it is with the staircase. But it sounds like it's more than the staircase. Because whoever is there is also going down into the kitchen. But it is a common thing. Stairways are um, definitely there in a lot of stories. um, yeah, either a doppelganger, Apoc says, or of course, time stuff. Who knows? Yeah. So, although I don't really know. The first part of that, it doesn't sound. Then again, we really don't know what shadow figures are. So, if it was, I'd wonder what the height of the shadow person was. I wonder if it looked around the same size and shape as the writer at that time. So, but and then it sounds like things just slowed down and stopped. So, that's an amazing story there. Um, at least it didn't frighten everyone too much. So that's good. But yeah, I don't know what to make of that one. So, but that's going to do it for today. Tomorrow, as of right now, the plan is to have another one of the basically the comic books and the paranormal episode that we didn't get to have last week. I had to reschedule for this week, so that's tomorrow night. And then, of course, more true paranormal stories from the web on Thursday, and then more paranormal news on Friday. So, thank you all for being here, as always. And I will talk to you all tomorrow night on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.